Prices of thousands of grocery items will double by 2023. Are you ready for your grocery bill to skyrocket? Prices on thousands of grocery items are set to double by 2023. Hello, and welcome to our YouTube channel. In today's video, we'll be discussing a troubling trend that is set to impact the way we shop for groceries. According to recent reports, prices on thousands of grocery items are expected to double by 2023. This means that the cost of feeding your family could be significantly higher in just a few short years. But why is this happening, and what can we do about it? Stick around to find out more. Concerns are rising that the global food crisis has not yet peaked, with forecasts that inflation will continue to rise and that the issue will become one of affordability rather than supply by next year. The World Food Program, the United Nations Food Assistance Division, predicts that 2023 may be even worse than the debilitating events of 2022, with food prices staying persistently high. According to WFP's head economist, Arif Hussain, the current concern is food costs rather than food supply. But how long will this last? He said that there is food available, but the costs are exorbitant. However, if they are unable to deal with some issues, such as the availability of fertilizer, not only the availability of fertilizer, but the availability of fertilizer at a reasonable price, then this problem will evolve into an availability crisis next year. According to a UN assessment, the cost of fertilizer has more than quadrupled this year, making it a challenging year for farmers. These expenses are subsequently passed on to the customer, resulting in increased food prices across the board. While food commodity costs are falling, it is just not enough to impact food inflation. Hundreds of millions of people remain impoverished as a result of the poisonous mix of falling currencies and excessive food inflation. Despite the dramatic decrease in food commodity prices seen in the current July FAO Food Price Index data, high food inflation remains an intractable thing. USDA economist Matt McLachlan also cautions that peak food inflation has not yet arrived, since unregulated food prices skew inflation figures in many nations. The WFP senior economist cites Lebanon's 240% food inflation, Zimbabwe's 309% food inflation, Venezuela's 155% food inflation, and Sudan's 149% food inflation as some of the most concerning situations. Hussain also said that we are absolutely not out of the woods when it comes to the effects of our lifetime's global hunger issue. Food inflation in Germany reached 16.6% year-on-year, well above the 7.9% overall rate of inflation. Food prices in the EU climbed by 12.8% in July compared to the previous year. Similarly, food inflation in the United States is greater than general inflation, at 10.9% versus 8.5% in July. With Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the disintegration of Europe's breadbasket, the flaws in our interdependent food system became apparent. Before the conflict in Ukraine, the nation produced enough food to feed 400 million people each year. Food export interruptions have direct consequences for nations that depend significantly on grain imports from both Russia and Ukraine, important participants in global wheat and maize markets according to the World Food Program. 45 African and food-insecure countries bought at least a third of their wheat from Ukraine or Russia, with 18 importing more than half, and 4 importing more than 80% of their wheat from the two countries Eritrea, Somalia, the DRC, and Laos. Hussain adds that since 5 or 6 nations dominate the production of the most vital food commodities, such as wheat, anytime one of the producers experiences a shock, the consequences impact every country. He emphasizes that the shockwaves of food price increases may be felt hundreds of kilometers distant. The World Food Program lacks cash to assist the 345 million people experiencing a food crisis, with the agency pausing work in certain places as funds run out. Such is the situation in South Sudan, where despite the World Food Program admitting that the country is facing its worst year of starvation since its independence in 2011, the agency opted in June to only target 2/3 of the impoverished nation due to a lack of finances. WFP is trying to help 152 million people and needs $22.2 billion in 2022 to do so, said the WFP communication officer James Belgrave told Food Ingredients First. According to UN estimates, 345 million people are in a food crisis in 82 countries, up from 135 million in 2019, before the COVID-19 epidemic. According to the World Food Program, 50 million people in 45 nations are on the verge of starvation. According to the organization, WFP reached more than 900,000 individuals in hard-to-reach or frontline locations directly impacted by the war. The WFP is also launching a value voucher initiative in which 64,000 food aid recipients will be given paper vouchers to spend in grocery stores. Each voucher is worth $13 in an effort to resuscitate local economies. Meanwhile, according to the Ukrainian Infrastructure Ministry, 1.5 million metric tons of food have departed the country's borders toward global seaports in the first month after the grain agreement that permits grain to leave Ukraine's Black Sea ports. Analysts and executives at significant food producers estimate inflation to remain around this level for the remainder of 2022. The pace of food inflation is anticipated to slow next year, but that doesn't imply prices will fall. When prices reach a specific level, they tend to remain there or rise, but seldom fall. A variety of reasons have led to the price increase. Producers claim they are paying more for labor and packaging supplies. Extreme weather, such as drought or floods, and illness, such as the lethal avian flu, have harmed crops and killed egg-laying chickens, tightening supply. Even if some of these conditions improve, it will take time for such improvements to reach customers. There's a lot of uncertainty, said David Ortega, an assistant professor of food economics at Michigan State University. It is unclear when the Ukraine conflict will conclude or how weather will affect crops in the future. That's one of the reasons prices take longer to fall. Producers aren't seeing an end to inflation in terms of labor and commodity costs, according to Cade K. Davey, head of client engagement at market research firm IRI. Food inflation is expected to grow between 5% and 10% next year, according to the business. In the meantime, demand is great. Consumers may be able to reduce their spending on certain discretionary things, but they must eat. Paying increasing supermarket costs may still be less expensive than eating out, when menu prices are also rising, though, at a slower clip. And many individuals continue to work from home and eat more of their meals there. Because of this mismatch, businesses may raise prices without seeing a drop in sales. They do anticipate near-term inflation to stay strong, said Mondelez CEO Dirk van de Put, stated this summer during an earnings call. The creator of Oreo and Ritz said its energy, transportation, packaging, and raw material costs remain high, and it announced more price hikes to compensate. General Mills, which manufactures everything from Cheerios to Blue Buffalo pet food, anticipates a 14% to 15% increase in expenditures for its fiscal year 2023, owing to higher pricing for commodities such as nuts, fruits, and flavors. Additional price increases for retail consumers are planned by the corporation. For the time being, customers haven't objected to the increased costs, according to CEO Jeff Harmening during a September earnings call. Elasticity refers to the ease with which consumers adjust their purchasing habits in reaction to increasing pricing. According to Harmening, consumers took the increased costs better than General Mills intended. Companies have no need to lower their items while expenses continue to climb and customers continue to purchase. They believe the danger of promotions ramping up considerably in the next quarters is fairly modest, Harmening said during the call. He said that for manufacturers to enhance promotions, supply chain interruptions must be eliminated and expenses must be greatly reduced. None of those things are visible to them. Prices tend to rise with time in general. According to government statistics, food costs fell just twice between 1974 and 2021. They increased every other year. However, some years the rise was quite minor. There is usually a general rise in pricing. Ortega, the food economist, said that that's simply the way the economy works. Typically, he added, supermarket costs rise by approximately 2% or 3% each year, a far slower rate than the one occurring today. Consumers may not have noticed rising costs in the past since their incomes kept up with the rises. That is not the situation right now. Consumer costs are rising faster than salaries, he said. What they're seeing today is a cost of living catastrophe. Grocery prices, in particular, are sticky due to the difficulty of changing them. When food producers increase prices for merchants, the costs are not always passed on to consumers. If they can afford it, some may choose to keep pricing low in order to lure people into the business. Retailers also dislike gradually raising prices because it annoys customers, according to Andy Herrig, Vice President of Tax, Trade, Sustainability, and Policy Development at FMI, a food industry group. Every week, a large number of individuals shop, and there's a lot of consistency in what they purchase, he said. As a result, when prices fluctuate even marginally, they definitely perceive and feel those changes. When merchants change their pricing in store, they must print new labels and input the new prices into their sales systems. Because stores stock tens of thousands of different goods, making changes becomes a massive undertaking when prices rise across many categories. Thanks for watching our video on the rising prices of thousands of grocery items. We hope you found this information helpful. Stay tuned for more updates and tips on how to save on your groceries. Remember to subscribe to our channel for more valuable content.